Arms are a force accelerator for all illicit markets. Fundamentally, the ability to use violence is one of the primary means by which criminal groups exert control. I mean, we talk a lot about the bullet or the bribe, and the bullet is compelling. It's a source of signaling power. It's a way to coerce people into doing things. Violence matters, and the gun is the most powerful weapon there is. So for us to understand and monitor the illicit arms market suggests where and how criminal groups are evolving and where they may likely take or attempt to take control. The focus on Europe for the GI is a new one, partly driven by the fact that criminal markets are increasing in Europe. When we looked comparatively at the findings from our Organised Crime Index published in 2021 and the second in 2023, the criminality score for Europe increased the most comparative to all other regions in the world. Organised crime has been focused in Europe for a long time, but we have seen growing evidence of criminal groups embedding themselves into European economies, into European political systems, things that were not true previously: gun crime rising, weapons trafficking becoming a problem, migrant smuggling groups thriving across Central and Western Europe, criminal assassinations, targeted killings of political figures, journalists happening on European soil. These are all evidence of criminal markets in Europe growing, and for that reason we felt it would not be an effective and appropriate global response to neglect European markets. We needed to focus on Europe to understand how the global illicit economy is working. There's no question in looking at the threats of arms trafficking to Europe that there are different dynamics to this threat. We've had discussions around the growth of converted gas guns as an example, so weapons that are not designed to be lethal being converted into lethal weapons. We've also talked about the risks of other forms of technology like the rise in 3D printed guns becoming a major means by which arms gets into Europe. But there is little question that the single greatest threat is the growing prevalence of arms as a result of Russia's invasion of Ukraine and the hot conflict that's going on there. The number of weapons that have been brought legally into the conflict, either donated or sold. But the risk that we see for the arms trafficking markets in Europe going forward are, as the conflict begins to wind down, as there is no longer active fighting, there are enough pull factors in European markets that may incentivize the diversion of weapons out of the immediate conflict zone and into Europe. We looked in particular at the high price of weapons in Europe, but also the growing number of gangs and organised crime groups and gang wars happening in different parts of the continent. Sweden is a key example where there is a very violent drug war going on, and the evidence of weapons trafficking into that conflict is clear. But there are others. So for us to neglect or to not continually monitor and to look out for early warning and red flags that there is the risk of diversion would be neglectful of the wider European picture.